Hello, my little cubs! I'm your host, Professor Nicodemus Beasley, and welcome to Wolf Moon Cinema's Toy Reviews. I'm here at the beach in lovely Innsmouth, Massachusetts, to present today's toy line, Clash of the Titans, produced by Mattel in 1981 to correspond to the release of the beloved Ray Harryhausen film. And to begin, let me say, release the Kraken! Mattel's 1981 Clash of the Titans line would in the end be comprised of 2 creatures and 4 action figures. Numerous items were solicited that were not released, including a child-sized set of Perseus's weapons and equipment, a child-sized version of Bubo, Perseus's mechanical owl, and a Leia playset that would have been double-sided, with one side representing Calibos's throne room and the other side representing the battlements that the Kraken arrives on during Andromeda's sacrifice. The Perseus action figure includes his magic sword and shield, and in my opinion does have rather a good likeness of Harry Hamlin. Thallo, the captain of the guards, was also included in the line. He may seem like an odd choice, but once one rewatches the movie, one will find that he appears far more often in the film than one generally thinks. As is so common in Mattel's lines from the late 70s and early 80s, he recycles numerous parts. His sword and shield both come from Perseus, as do his arms and legs. The third figure in the line is Charon, dubbed on his packaging the Devil's Boatman, because someone being mythologically illiterate at Mattel confuses Hades with the devil. This figure is a little bit strange. He does not include his barge, nor does he include his staff. He only includes the same sword as Perseus, which every figure in the line was packed with. I think that Charon would have worked better as a deluxe figure that actually had his boat. The last figure in the line is the villain of the film, Calibos. Again, Calibos has the same sword as the other 3 action figures. I've always considered it a little bit strange that he wasn't included with his whip or his trident hand that he acquires later in the film. Another odd aspect of the Calibos figure is that his clothing was changed to brown from bright blue. I have no idea what motivated this change. Calibos is an unusual character. In the actual mythology, Perseus does have a rival for the hand of Andromeda named Phineus, but Phineus is completely human. If anything, Calibos seems to be a weird combination of Phineus, Achilles, considering his relationship with Thetis being his mother, and Caliban from The Tempest. And I really do think that that Shakespeare character is responsible for both his appearance and his name. And finally, we have the lovely Andromeda. Oh wait, there was no Andromeda. True, the line ended with only 4 action figures. There is reason to believe that additional figures were planned in a second series. A head sculpt of a bearded man has turned up, which is widely said to be Laurence Olivier's Zeus. This figure is actually a character called Glisten from Mattel's Dazzle line, released at around the same time. She isn't a real Andromeda, but she looks pretty good in with the other action figures and displays nicely with them. The line produced 2 creatures. First was Pegasus. The Pegasus figure is completely made from white plastic with rubbery white wings. There is no posability, although the wings are slightly flexible. If this sculpt looks somewhat familiar, it would be that Mattel reused this particular horse sculpt in multiple scales from multiple lines, utilizing reduction gears. An almost identical version, without the holes for the wings, and colored as a palomino, was produced for the aforementioned Dazzle line of dolls. Slightly larger and with rooted hair, this mold was used to create the various winged horses of Princess of Power, including the legendary Swiftwind. Finally, at a 12-inch scale, also with rooted hair, this was used to create several horses for the Barbie line. I am not aware where this sculpt originated and which line it was intended for to begin with, though I would probably think that it was originally created for Barbie and then shrunk down with reduction gears, but I'm not completely sure. Pegasus was also available packaged with Perseus as a gift set. The final and most desirable piece from the line is the Kraken Sea Monster. In terms of design and execution, it is extremely similar to the Shogun Warriors Godzilla and World's Greatest Monsters Rodan made in the years prior. The Kraken has a somewhat posable tail, a turnable waist, and 4 ball-jointed arms. I have my issues with the overall design, as I don't think it entirely looks correct to Ray Harryhausen's stop-motion monster, particularly in the head. There's something far more simian about the way it looks and less lizard-like. Also, the body proportions are somewhat odd. Another unusual feature of the Kraken that will be a surprise to people who don't actually own it is that the tail, which one would think would be made out of a rubbery plastic, is actually made out of a very hard, rigid plastic that's prone to crack. It also simply sits on the back of the figure, plugging into a very loose connector on the back, which means that any attempt to move the creature often results in the tail falling off. While a desirable line, due to the massive amount of affection that many people have for the original Clash of the Titans, I'm not even going to address that dreadful remake, the line suffers from what many of Mattel's lines from the late 70s and early 80s suffer from. Bizarre character choices, with major characters like Bubo or Andromeda or Zeus or Ammon not seeing production as figures. No Medusa or any of the other creatures. An excessive use of economy, a barely posable Pegasus, which, when compared to the toy horses made by Gabriel for their Lone Ranger and Zorro lines, or by Kenner for Butch and Sundance the early years, and for their Indiana Jones toy line, all of which are fully posable horses, contrast drastically with this unmovable statue. There's also an excessive choice to economize on the action figures. Perseus reuses the arms and legs from Thallo, and every single figure in the line has the same sword as Perseus, regardless of whether the character ever actually used a sword in the film. I think that at this era, that Mattel simply entered their male toy lines half-heartedly. It's very visible with both Battlestar Galactica and Flash Gordon made around the same time. We wouldn't really see a change until their own Masters of the Universe line, but then again, when they did do licensed products in the mid-80s, such as Secret Wars, the same excessive economy would come back into effect. While I think it is a nostalgic line, and there are some well-made toys in it, as a whole, I think that the line is somewhat lackluster and a bit disappointing.